So just moving into that conversation, Tomball ISD looking at that, or looked at that. We started in 2017-2018 school year, partnering with a company called Don Johnston to provide everyone in our district some tools, Co-Writer and Snap and Read. I found this quote from the University of Texas Permian Basin. It kind of hit home with this. Technology can reduce or eliminate barriers to learning for students in special education. It allows them to be more independent, keep up with their peers, gain self-confidence, and collaborate with classmates. So this is just one way that we were looking at outcomes for these students, getting them more inclusion and in the classroom and access to the curriculum with the tools that they may need to be successful. So again, with Don Johnston, we collaborated and we made sure that everybody in our district, teachers, staff, students who have a Tomball ISD email, which is all of them, had access to these tools. We have Co-Writer Universal, Snap and Read Universal, and UPAR. So what those are, for example, Co-Writer Universal is an extension. They're all extensions that you can have on your Google, on your computer. They can also be web-based or on your computer as a hard drive, I guess. I'm not a computer person, but what's great about them is they're accessible pretty much anywhere you are as long as you have that Tomball ISD email. And so Co-Writer is the product that works with predictive spelling. It does speech to text. So if a student needs to speak the text for it to write, it will do that. It will actually even speak the words then back to the student if they need that as well. It does translation support in addition to that and many things. Snap and Read Universal has a whole gamut of supports in that. So obviously it will read text to the student. It will read accessible text. It will also read inaccessible text by taking a little snippet of it, a picture of it, and it will read that as well. It does outlining tools. It can even do things like annotations and bibliographies for students who are doing research papers. It will help them organize those kinds of things. It will do the speech to text, the text to speech back and forth as well. And then also one of the real huge benefits of Snap and Read, the tools that help students a lot, is that content and language support. So it can simplify text, it can give it some context or give pictures for the vocabulary, and it also has the translation tools in it as well. So huge supports for all of our students in Tomball ISD to have access to, not just the students in special education or 504. But what was great about these is that it's available for all, and we're giving all the students the access if they need that and the tools to be successful. But for our students who may require that, then we can look at, and we have been looking at, adding those accommodations, putting them into their 504 plans, putting them into their IEP accommodations, that, hey, these might be things that they require based on their disabilities to be able to access that curriculum, to be able to be successful in that gen ed setting. And so along with the Co-Writer and Snap and Read Universal, one of the really important ones is UPAR Universal. So that's the Universal Protocol for Accommodations and Reading. And so what that does is it looks at, is the student going to benefit from having things read to them, or those auditory supports, whether it's a human voice, whether it's an electronic voice, does that actually help the student into gaining a higher level reading level for their comprehension, for their understanding, so that they can reach that vocabulary at their grade level. They can reach the context and the problem solving and those higher level skills and not keep lagging behind. So that was a great partnership. We actually piloted a school in, I believe, 2016, but we went district-wide with these supports in 2017 of 2018. So in order to do that, we understood too as a district that it takes everyone to make something successful. We want to make sure that everybody knew how important it was to move to that focus on outcomes, to move to that focus on providing the tools and the supports that the students need to access that curriculum. And so to do that, we put together a pretty detailed plan, and we had made sure that Our curriculum access tools were a focus for everybody, including our district improvement plan. We had focuses in there that related specifically to that, with the vocabulary supports, the text flexibility tools, the text-to-speech, as well as the predicted spelling, the dictionary supports, auditory supports. And then we did project goals. Because we were pushing out this new thing district-wide, we wanted to make sure that it was successful and that it actually got into the hands of the students who needed to use it. So we set goals for us as a department and actually for us as a district to look at. And some of the things that we looked at and that we really targeted were just having someone on the team making sure that they were looking at district resources for technology. Did we really have enough technology and computers or Chromebooks or iPads or tablets out there for the students to be able to access these tools and to actually use them? And then what would it look like for if they had a computer at home or a tablet at home or those kind of things, and how would they get that access if they were at home and not on a school device? And so that was a responsibility of part of the team, just to look at those things. Obviously, we set goals. There's a picture there in the middle of the screen that shows every year, and you can see this is from 2021 right now in our hallway. We have goals for our department every year that look at, are we looking at word usage, words read, time on, all sorts of different goals, obviously, that we have for the department, but there's usually always one that relates to our curriculum access tools, is what we refer to Snap and Read, Co-Writer, and UPAR, among some others now that we've added. We also made sure that we were targeting at every monthly or bi-monthly principal meeting, administrative directors meetings, campus meetings that we went to, that we were making sure and talking to them about Snap and Read and Co-Writer, about how they could integrate the UPAR assessments into their student improvement teams, into their 504 assessments. If they're testing someone for dyslexia, let's see if they benefit from these supports and do the UPAR to see where they are. So we had a whole plan for all of those trainings, all of that information that was going out to the district as well. In addition to how we were going to incorporate and put out guidelines for the UPAR being integrated into that screening of students. Anytime we're looking at a student who's struggling in reading, then we probably need to incorporate a UPAR into their plan to see if this is something that would benefit the student. Additionally, you see on the bottom right-hand corner there, there's a picture when I say read, use Snap and Read. We had a person that was just responsible for making sure that we had posters and marketing and things out there so that people didn't forget, hey, we have these tools to help students. We want to make sure we're affecting their outcomes in the classroom. We want to make sure they have full access to that curriculum if they're struggling readers, or if they have any difficulty in that area and they can use these supports. And so we had lots of different posters, lots of different signage. We had our front page on, we used eSped Frontline as our special ed system. So on there we had pictures, remember to use the UPAR, see if they benefit students, remember to use Snap and Read, little helpful hints and tips that we would change all the time to make sure that that awareness stayed up and that people were learning how to use those tools. And then obviously, you see the picture of the students there. That's who we're targeting. That was our audience. So lots and lots and lots of direct trainings in classrooms. There were direct trainings to students individually if they struggled a little bit more and they needed some supports on how to use them, because they really did require those supports. There was lots of webinars that we did, or recorded trainings that we put out there for the teachers, for the staff, for the parents. That we had a lot of staff meetings to get all of the teachers trained on how to use those and how to teach their students to use them, how to incorporate the use of those tools into their classroom lessons for all students, so that it wasn't just something that one student or another used and stood out. So those were lots of targeted trainings that really got everybody on board really quickly. And then in addition, parents are always the key. we wanted to make sure that the parents were fully aware of what resources were out there for their kids and that they could be using those resources at home as well to help them. And these are tools that they could use lifelong. Although we chose to use Don Johnston Snap and Read and Co-Writer and UPAR, there's lots of tools out there that are text-to-speech, speech-to-text, predictive spelling that people can use. I use my phone all the time when I'm texting, right? And it gives me predictive spelling. Sometimes we love that, sometimes we don't. Spell check sometimes is our friend and sometimes not. But it is a tool that we all can rely on and use. There's lots of programs out there that will read things to you. Some of them are great, some of them not so great, but they're out there. And so these are tools and strategies that we want our students to learn so that they can reach, again, that curriculum and have access to it so that they can, again, get that higher level problem solving, higher level vocabulary, and continue to grow in their education and then also after high school. Additionally, one of the things that we did was we as a student support department developed a vision and beliefs, and as part of our beliefs we made it very clear that curriculum access tools are universal. We want them to be available for anyone who needs them, and they're out there in the world. Additionally, anytime we hired new staff, we wanted to make sure that that was one of the things that was very important for them to know right off the bat. Hey, orient yourself with the curriculum access tools that we use in Tomball ISD. Snap and Read, Co-Writer, and I'm going to get to Bookshare and Learning Ally in a little bit. This is a graph from the Universal Protocol for Accommodations in Reading, UPAR. And so you can give a group of students the assessment, and it will give you information on that group of students. So say you wanted to give the assessment to your entire classroom of students. In this case, there's 9. And so you can see out of those 9 students that were assessed with this UPAR, 2 of those students actually were able to exceed their grade level, their reading grade level, with the use of the accommodations of the auditory supports, so the text being read to them. There were 2 that the auditory supports didn't really help them. Those may have been students who were already reading on or above grade level, and auditory supports didn't really make any difference with that, and that's okay. There was 1 student in that 9 that was able to read above their independent reading level, and then 4 that were struggling readers that were able to, with auditory supports, get to their grade level with those supports. So I think that's a very powerful graph that just shows you there's different levels of the accommodation benefiting students, but most of the time, well over 70% of the students that you would find in a group would reap some benefit from those auditory supports. And so that is just one way to reach so many students for better outcomes. This is what you would see if you gave an individual assessment with the UPAR. So if you were just testing 1 student, and you can see here on that they are actually at the 1st grade reading level. So that's their independent reading level right here with the book. And so they were on a 1st grade reading level with a silent read at 88% accuracy. So with human audio, so a human voice reading to them the passage, they were able to reach a 3rd grade level. And then with a text reader, so a computerized voice text reader, they were actually able to read 5th grade level comprehension with that, with the auditory supports. So pretty amazing results that we see all the time here in Tomball ISD with this is a student somewhere around a 1st grade reading level independently being able to actually comprehend and work with text at a 5th grade level if they have the use of auditory supports. So I think that's a pretty powerful statement when you can see that analysis, when you can see that assessment with students that you're working with and see what they can do with such a simple tool as something being read to them clicking a button and the computer reading them the text, and then them being able to have access to all of that curriculum that may be at or above their grade level.